Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I am here to share with you all of the books I read in the month of February. So February actually did pretty good. I read 8 books, which I am very happy about. I just feel like I finally have got my reading groove back, and I'm hoping it stays because, you know, when your personal life gets busy and stressful, it kind of goes into your reading life and it just kind of affects every forefront. But I'm going to share with you all the books I read in the month of February. As always, I'm going to start with my least favorite, working up to my favorite. Any reviews and stuff like that, I will link down below. First, I have 2 stars this month, which is not a good time. We all don't like it, but it happens. First up, Ruby Spencer's Whiskey Year by Rochelle Bilow. This is a random one. I was excited for it. I put on my most anticipated reads of the year because it just sounded really fun, but honestly, it was boring. So this one follows a girl named Ruby who lives in New York, and she's not really happy with her life, so she decides to like take a year off to like rent out this place in Scotland to write a cookbook. And she also gets a job at this like local pub in this very, very small town in Scotland. There she meets a guy, what's his name? Brocken? I don't know. I'm probably butchering it, but basically a romance happens. It's all about this small Scottish town, which all sounds really good to me. Like that's a lot of appeals to me, like cooking, small towns, Scotland, like yes, yes, and yes. That's a book that straight up calls to me. But nothing happened in this book. It was boring. It was a bear to get through, honestly. Like the romance was okay. It did take a long time to get there in case you want that really, really slow burn of a romance. If you're a big fan of that, I'd check it out. But other than that, like, it was just boring. Nothing really happened. Like the writing was okay, but I just felt like it was a book kind of just about, I don't want to say nothing, but it just wasn't for me. So sadly, a 2 out of 5. It happens. And the other 2 out of 5 is another book I was really excited for the year, probably really excited for more than the other one, is The Writing Retreat by Julie Bartz. I saw this in NetGalley and the premise was amazing. It's all about this character named Alex who, has dreams to become a horror author, and she gets a chance to attend a writing retreat by like her favorite horror author ever named Rosa. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing because this is a very lucky thing to do. But her ex-best friend Ren also gets invited. So basically they spend the whole month of February there, so it's perfect time to read this book, and they all have to write a full-length novel in that month. And whoever writes the best book judged by Rosa will get their book published and a whole bunch of money. But of course, things go, of course, it sounds picture perfect, sounds amazing, but it's really not like that. It's her house is like her house is in upstate New York, like where nobody is, and creepy things start to happen. Oh my gosh, this was a letdown. First of all, it took forever to get the plot. Like, oh my goodness. And then the last 20% were just cuckoo bananas, and the plot just went, I'm gonna go anywhere I want to. And it did. And it just didn't make sense. There was a lot of plot holes in it. There was a lot of different twists. I was like, why? It had such a good premise, reel you in, and it just was not good. I did not enjoy this at all. Like I'm so sad about it because I thought it was so, I put this on my like 5-star predictions list. That's how much I was looking forward to it. Clearly it did not meet that mark. I mean, I may be alone in this. I just did not enjoy it. I really didn't. Maybe other people like it. If so, I'm happy for you. Then we have Twisted Love by Anna Haung. I read this because I'm trying to read and keep up more with like TikTok books, you know. I see a lot of different books that are on all like TikTok romance videos, and this particular series is one of them. I believe it's called the Twisted series. I read the first book. It was okay. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It just, it's not for me. I'll say that. Like, I like some steamy books. I like steamy books, don't get me wrong. I just did not enjoy the steam in this one. So this one follows a character named Alex and, I forget her name, Ava. And Ava's older brother goes away for a year. So he asks his best friend Alex to keep an eye on her. And Alex is just like the guy with like the cold heart and really hard exterior. But Ava's like the optimistic, happy-go-lucky. And of course things happen. And whoa, the spice in this, like if you don't like spice, do not read this book. But it wasn't my kind of spice, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know if I'll continue on with the series, but it just wasn't, I don't know. It was basically about the bad guy that's horrible with the good girl, and of course his cold, hard heart melts. And plus also in this book, a big qualm that I don't hear a lot of people talk about is this Alex guy has been on his own for a long time because his family was really messed up when they were younger. And he casually talks about how he's 20 something and the CEO of his company. And he was like, I made my first million when I was 14 years old. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know what you were doing when you were 14, but I wasn't doing that. I was being like the world's most awkward teenager at 14, and I still pretty much am. So I'm like this author really made us to show how like strong and how much money and how the best Alex was at everything. And I was like, who makes $1 million at 14? Like, and he was like control of his own company at 11. I'm like, what? I don't know. Am I the only one that feels that way about that in that particular regard to the books? Please let me know. It was a 3-star. It wasn't horrible. I read other books that I clearly did not like more, so there you go. Then my other 3-star is Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is her latest book. I've read a lot of Tessa Bailey books. Her books are also steamy, spicy, and I do enjoy hers. But this one, however, did let me down. This one is about a character named Hallie who is a gardener. So in case you love gardening in spring, check out this book. And she has been in love with this guy named Julian since forever. She's had the biggest crush on him. They almost kissed in high school. And basically Julian is back in town. He's living with his mom at their vineyard, and Hallie gets to do a section of the garden there, and they start talking again. And the romance just was not it in this book. Sometimes romance in Tessa Bailey's books are like, it is there. I have some amazing ones that I love by Tessa Bailey, but this one I just felt like the chemistry wasn't there. I felt like she had this unrequited love and he didn't even know who she was. Like, he didn't remember her. And I'm just like, well, that's harsh. But I don't know. It just wasn't there for me. I did like the character of Hallie a lot. She was kind of like a ticking time. She was just kind of just controlled chaos is the best way to describe it. Like, she's a gardener. She just plants everything. She's a dog. She's always dirty. She just goes with the flow. She was fun. Julian was very much more reserved and very scheduled and things like that. And so they kind of clashed but came together. It was cute, don't get me wrong, but it definitely wasn't one of my favorite Tessa Bailey books. And then we have one I read on a total whim, and that is Beneath Devil's Bridge. I forget the author's name because I borrowed it from the library. But this one I mainly read it because it had a podcast element, and I love podcasts and thriller books. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. This one I didn't think was very necessary to the plot. So basically all I can tell you about this book is, oh, it's kind of convoluted. We have a podcast going up from this girl named Trinity who's going into a really, really old case of this girl named Lena that got killed like 20 years ago. And they found her killer. Her killer's been in prison, but now her killer's saying, I did not kill her. I don't know who did, but the killer is still out there. She goes to the hometown to interview people, and there she interviews Rachel, who was the big detective on the case. And Rachel has a lot of secrets to it. And so basically they rehash this case, and you follow from the podcast point of views, which doesn't make that much point in this book. It really doesn't. And you mostly follow Rachel from 2 timelines, from her now trying to figure out, is the guy that's in prison really the one that killed Lena, or is something else happening and that she couldn't put 2 and 2 together? And you also go back in time as she's trying to solve this case. Overall, I did really enjoy this book. Like, the first 80% was great. I loved it. It had me hooked. I was like, what's going on? It is based on a true story, which I did not know the story. And then the last bit happened, and it fell really flat for me. Like, the way it ended, I was like, I did not enjoy it one single bit. So that's why I gave it a 3 stars. Like, I did not enjoy the ending, but overall I did enjoy the main chunk of it, like the way this author wrote. I do want to read more of her books, but the ending just really let me down. Wasn't a fan of it. Didn't make really a lot of sense. But like I said, it was based on a true story, and I've read reviews that it was like, wow, this author just took the literal story and just changed names. So I don't know. I didn't know the true story, so do with that what you will. But either way, it was okay. Definitely not one of my favorite thrillers I've ever read. We have My Phony Valentine by Courtney Walsh. I read this obviously right near Valentine's Day. This one follows 2 characters, one named Poppy. She runs into this horrible girl in high school. She runs into this horrible girl that she went to high school with, and the girl's like, oh, your boyfriend broke up with you? Like, you're so sad, desperate, blah, blah, blah. And then Poppy runs into this really hunk of a guy. She's like, no, I have a new boyfriend. He's right here. And turns out to be Dallas, this pro ice hockey player, and he plays along. He's like, yeah. And so basically he helps her have a jam, and they become friends, and they decide, hey, maybe we should fake date. This will help Dallas's image because he's had a lot of bad media, and this will help Poppy's restaurant that she is owning and doesn't have a lot of customers. And so they decide to fake date, and you can guess where it's going. It was really cute. Courtney Walsh writes very clean romances, so in case you don't like the steam and spice, Courtney Walsh does that. And this was just cute. It was ooey gooey, cheesy, you know, you get all that without the steam and stuff like that. I really liked it. I thought it was a fun time. I give it a 4 out of 5. And the other 4-star I gave is Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes. I've read Jojo Moyes books before. I do really enjoy them. Her books are more, not romance, but I'd say chick lit. So if you like that, and more like women's fiction, I would say. This one was pretty fun. This one is about 2 characters, Nisha and Sam. And so they both go to the same gym in London. And basically they get their bags switched up. And so Nisha, who is a very, very rich woman, opens up her bag and finds like these flip-flops and other stuff, and she's like, oh my gosh, I cannot. And then Sam opens up her bag and she's like, oh my gosh, I got these amazing Louboutins and things like that. And so basically it's all about kind of like walking in the other woman's shoes. They each have very, very different lives. Nisha is very, very rich. Her husband is divorcing her, and he won't let her get any of her materials, like any of her belongings, and she's in London, not even her home, like, country. And so she has to like get this job at the hotel, and she has to work from the bottom up again. And she starts to realize like how life is for other people. And she used to have that life, but ever since she married Rich, she's never thought about it. Then we have Sam, who is going through also a lot. Middle class person. Her husband lost his job recently. He's going through a lot of depression where he can't even leave the couch and things like that. So it's up to Sam to bring in the money, to take care of everything in the house, take care of the dog, take care of the daughter. And she is just quite honestly very, very drained and tired. And so somehow through a course of actions, these women meet, and it's basically about them like going through the motions with their life. There's not a huge bit plot in this. It's more character driven, but I really enjoyed it. Nisha's a character at first. I was like, I want to punch this woman in the face. Like, material is not everything, but you see her learn and progress through the course of the book. I will say this one thing I did not like in this book was it was like Murphy's Law. Like when something bad happened to a character, it happened again, happened again, happened again. But then you know what though? That's kind of like life. Like whenever I'm like, sometimes like right now in my life, I feel like I'm constantly almost drowning. I can get my head above water. I'm like, okay, I'm good, I'm good. And then something else happens and I'm like, crap. So I do kind of get that in a way, but that's how I felt while reading this book. But I would recommend it. If you like character-driven stories about characters kind of just going through motions and going through different stages of lives, it was pretty fun. I liked it. Would recommend it. And my favorite book that I read of the entire month is Legends of Lattes by Travis Baldree. This one reminds me very much of House by the Cerulean Sea, The Secret Society of Irregular Witches. It's just a feel-good book. So in this book, we follow an orc named Viv who is hanging up her sword. She's done with the bloodshed. She wants to open up her own coffee shop in this very, very small town. But nobody knows what coffee is. Like it's kind of like a new thing. And so you get to see her open up this coffee shop, hire these people, and it's just a fun, amazing time. Book that's just gonna make you smile from ear to ear about like learning with these people, like what coffee is and the pairing with cinnamon rolls and things like that. It is just a feel-good book. Like it will make you smile. Like 5 out of 5, I loved it. Definitely like a comfort read for sure. So there you have all of the 8 books I read in the month of February. Overall, a pretty decent month. We'll have to see. So far, my reading for 2023, but at least I've read 1 5-star every month, so that should be good. I need to start thinking about that. But either way, I would love to know what you read this month. If you've read any of these books, please let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.